Has this ever happened to you? You pull your shot, flip the switch for steam, and it's ready, set, wait. All the while your shot's dying, and for what? You wanted a little blue juice in your espresso. It's not your coffee, but the oat that's really the goat. Hey, latte lovers, Mark here from Whole Latte Love, and you'll have to forgive me if we went maybe a little overboard in the intro there, but who doesn't love a little melodrama with their coffee, right? If you're brewing at home, or maybe you're still thinking about it, then there's a good chance you've used or are considering one of these guys, a single boiler espresso machine. Now, one thing that a single boiler can't do is brew and steam simultaneously. So in making a milk drink, the big question we get is, which should I do first? Today we've got some answers with a look at the workflow on 5 popular single boiler machines. We'll cover the pros and cons of brewing or steaming first, like is one order faster? Does a certain prep order produce a better drink? Plus we'll have some workflow tips, including some potential time savers. So the machines we're gonna cover, they're all right here. The Solis Barista Perfetta Plus, the Gaggia Classic E24, Rancilio Silvia, the Profitec GO, and the ECM Classika PID. For each, we'll have some specific workflow recommendations. To come up with those, we needed to do a bunch of testing, so I brought in Lily here to help out. She's part of our team at Whole Latte Love and has extensive barista experience. We did a lot of testing with each of the machines to get data on temperatures, prep times, pouring experience, and drink quality. The results should help you refine your workflow or maybe help you choose the single boiler machine that's right for you. Now, we don't use all 5 of these machines every day like some of you do, so if you have a machine-specific workflow or some tips you recommend, we'd love to hear about those in the comments. Now, before we get into it, of course, why not take a second and subscribe to the channel with those notifications enabled, of course. We've got weekly live streams and buckets of other content, including reviews of popular new products, brewing techniques, and even some anecdotes over in our community posts. And of course, we hope to see you in the comments with your thoughts on brewing or steaming first and any tips you might have. In order to determine the best process for each of these machines, Lily made 2 lattes on each of them. One brew first and the other steam first. Double espressos were made using 17 to 18 grams of ground coffee, pulled at about 200 Fahrenheit, extracted to a 1:2 ratio for 34 to 36 grams of espresso out by weight. We used 4 ounces of milk from the fridge, steamed to between 140 and 150 Fahrenheit. So Lily, thanks for joining me and working on the testing. So, let's talk about some general results. What kind of prep times did we get, and how did those times change when we flipped the preparation order between brewing and steaming?
Yeah, I would say the machines are pretty on par for all of them, between 2.5 minutes for the milk drinks.
You had one kind of outlier with one of the methods, but we'll talk more about that.
Of course. And then in general, I would say the smaller machines, just smaller boilers or the thermoblock tend to be a little bit quicker.
Okay.
And then these ones, of course, have the larger boilers, needs a little more time to steam and build up that pressure. So that's, I would say, the main difference just between these ones at least.
We're going to take a look at a graphic here that's going to show the total prep times for all the machines and, both brewing and steaming first. Now, I do want to explain that what we're seeing here, we're only including the time from the start of an extraction to the end of frothing, or from the start of frothing to the end of an extraction if we flip the order, with one exception, again, which we'll talk about. So what are some of your general recommendations? Let's say, we're going to steam our milk first. What should we do?
Yeah, if you're going to be steaming first, I would definitely recommend having the machine on, hitting that steam button just to get the temperature starting to build up there, and then taking care of your puck prep. By the time you're all set, it should be ready to start steaming. And that should save you a little bit of time. Now
again, if we were steaming last, we're not including cooling down the boiler after that in any of the times that we saw. So keep in mind, you still have to, every time after you steam milk, you need to cool down the boiler, unless you're going to steam again right then, right?
Right, exactly.
So Lily, in general, what do you think is better, brewing or steaming first?
It's hard to say, but I would say for latte art, definitely would want to brew first. Just because your milk is going to separate pretty quick. Definitely a lot easier to make those designs and super fine details if you are pouring pretty quick after steaming. Otherwise, I usually have that in my workflow.
Okay, so we used a glass pitcher so we can kind of see how, if you're gonna steam first and let it sit, how much it settles out. And we were generally using, we started with 150 milliliters of milk that expanded out to about 250, including all the froth. But if you let it sit while you're brewing a shot, you're gonna lose maybe 10% of that or something. Now, if you were making a cappuccino, wait, are you that worried really? I mean, a traditional cappuccino where you're going to get more just hot milk mixed with the espresso and a cap of foam, maybe you want some of that separation, right?
Exactly, and if you are making a traditional cappuccino, I would actually reverse it.
Okay.
It's very, very minor, but you will have a little bit nicer espresso flavor if you do brew last, and it's a lot less necessary to have super combined and silky milk, if anything.
So for fun, we also compared the temperatures of the finished drinks and looked at if there was any difference in the frothing and brewing order with those, and what did we find out?
Yeah, everything honestly stuck to a few degrees of 140, so really not too much differences in terms of temperature. I think either way you're going to get what's considered about standard temperature. Not too much differences there, I would say.
And I got to say, I got to give you some credit there because you're really good at nailing that temperature just by feeling the pitcher, right?
Thank you, yes. Lots of practice.
So let's get into the workflows on the specific machines.
Sounds good.
So for specific workflows and stuff that we need to know, we're going to start with the Solis Barista Perfetta Plus. This is a thermoblock machine. Tell us about your experience with that one.
Yeah, I actually really like this little guy. Definitely did a really surprising job in terms of the steaming. I got really nice latte art and also milk consistency. So it did a really great job and was super quick too with some of the automations, which I enjoy.
Yeah, we paid a lot of attention to the transition time. If we were going to go from brewing to steaming, how long did it take to get there? And It was 29 seconds over here on the Barista Perfetta Plus. And plus it's got some automations, like some automatic purging and stuff that, we're going to look at on other machines that you really don't have to do on this machine, right?
Absolutely, and it will save you time too, especially moving from steam to brew. It does do that automatic purge, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of amazing that this machine made the drinks really faster than any other machine. Now, it's not going to have quite the build quality of some of the other products that we're going to look at. And maybe, it may not have some of the temperature quality that some of the other machines have, but it does a really nice job, right? And I mean, when you were tasting that drink, you said you really liked the flavor from it, right?
I did, yeah, no, I really enjoyed its performance and I think makes a nice, small, compact machine.
So again, the Solis there, might not have the thermal characteristics for specialty grade extractions, but makes a nice drink. So what's your verdict? Are we going to brew or steam first over here on the Perfetta Plus?
Yeah, I would still say brew first on this one, especially for the latte art. Honestly, times are pretty similar between the two, so unless you're looking for a traditional cappuccino where you do want that separation anyways, I would likely still brew first on that one.
All right. All right, Lily, next up we got the Classic E24. This is our first traditional boiler machine, and I'm guessing, maybe if you watch our videos, this is one you might have expected to see. Long time best value recommendation of mine, a lot of our staff, for those just getting into espresso. Compared to the original Classic, this one's got the brass boiler, all brass boiler. So the temperature stability has gone up and some of the performance characteristics have gone up. Now, you did something special, like I kind of helped work with, and you can find another video that I'll link up here. Tell us about how you get a really good temperature on this machine.
Yeah, so you're going to play around with it a little bit, but for the most part, we essentially did a really quick 5 to 7 second flush right from the group head just to cool it down a little bit, wait for that light to come off, and then initiate our brew once we see
the light comes back on.
Exactly.
And that's how you get a really consistent 200-degree brew temperature.
Absolutely.
And now also here, the Classic was the fastest to be steam ready. And I want to talk a little bit about, and we'll hear about this again on some of the other machines, is you're going to press the steam button and then the machine will give you some indication where it's reached its full temperature. For that, you don't have to go that long on any of these machines, right? I mean, over here on the Classic, we did it after 25 seconds, right? And how was the steaming then?
It was really great, and I would say doing that method gives a little bit more consistent steam power, if anything.
Yeah.
Just keeping that heating element on so we're not dropping a lot of pressure once we do open up the valve and things.
Yeah, when it reaches full temperature, it's going to stop heating, and if you start before it reaches full temperature, it continues to heat that boiler. So you're going to keep that performance up. So your verdict on the Classic E24, brew first, steam first?
Yeah, I personally am still going to do a brew first. I'm just really big into pouring latte art, of course, so always going to be my preference for the most part. And then other thing too is if you are steaming first, you will have to cool down the boiler, so maybe a little bit longer to do it that way.
And yeah, I think also if you're going to be cooling down a boiler, to me, it's going to be maybe a little harder on a machine like this to get back to a very consistent brew temperature. I mean, it's not impossible at all. And once you get to know your machine, which I've said in a lot of videos, get to know your machine, you will find out how to do that really easily. But for you, it's going to be, I mean, it's so quick to steam pressure. I mean, there's really, in my mind, no reason, I guess in yours too, to do that steaming first, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
All right, and so just so we're clear on the workflow here, to cool this guy down, you're just gonna open up the steam valve a little bit, you're gonna hit the steam and the brew switch, and you're just gonna let that run until you get a solid stream of water out of the wand, and then turn those two switches off, close the valve, and you're all cooled down. When the brew ready light comes back on, usually, because it's gonna go off when you cool it down probably, when it comes back on, then you're probably pretty close to the temperature you wanna be again to brew another shot.
Exactly.
All right, Lily, we're up to Rancilio Silvia. This machine has launched many a home coffee career, big dedicated user group for this machine. So if you guys do have thoughts on workflow on this, because I think we said it, but we're not using every one of these machines every single day like people at home, so they might have some thoughts, and we do want to hear about those in the comments. Now, what are your thoughts on the Silvia here?
Yeah, definitely has a larger boiler than the Gaggia, so if you are going to be brewing first, will be a little bit longer just to get to steam temperature, but definitely has very powerful steam temperature. Did throw me off a little bit.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that. So when we brewed first, we gave it about 45 seconds after flipping the steam switch to heat up. Again, this machine, it would take, to reach full steam temperature, would take about 2 minutes to get there, but you don't have to wait that long. You found the frothing was pretty good there, right?
Yes.
But when we did steam first and we hit that steam switch, what happened?
Yeah, so we hit the steam switch maybe a little early while we were prepping our shot, and the machine was warming up for quite some time, so initially it just had a lot more pressure than I expected, and it was just a little much.
Yeah, and again, I mean, we're not using these machines every single day like some of you are, so we want to hear about your experiences with them in the comments. So, look, you're a pro. I mean, you've worked professionally as a barista for a while, and you were taken aback by the pressure on this. Now, I'm guessing you could figure that out. It was just, because it was, one of the first times doing it in a while, maybe? Yeah,
no, definitely. I think it has really great steam power, so it would be a really nice machine for the milk-based drinks. Just a little bit of practice, getting used to how much power, and just working with that in your own workflow.
Sure. So what's your verdict on the Silvia? I got a feeling I know what I'm going to hear, yes. But are you going to brew or steam first? I'm still going to brew first, and I'm okay with that wait time for getting the steam temperature there. If anything, not to dive into it too quick, but I do like to keep my cup up here with the espresso just to keep things warm. Keep it warm. Yeah, I mean, it does take a little bit longer. It was like, I think, 20 seconds longer if you're going to brew first, because you got to wait for that steam pressure to build up a little bit, but that's not bad. No. Now, I also, I want to mention down, we're going to talk about how to cool down all the machines. Again, the Silvia is really easy here. You're just going to, turn off that steam, of course, turn off the steam switch, open the valve a little bit, maybe have a receptacle or something, or you can go right into the drip tray. Silvia does have kind of a smaller drip tray, so I try and put it into something else. And then just turn on the pump switch until you get a solid stream of water out of the wand. Then turn off the pump switch, close the valve, and you should be good to go when it gets back up to your brewing temperature to go again.
Absolutely.
All right, so Lily, next up, the Profitec GO. This is an incredibly popular machine. It's the first machine in our lineup that has PID, so you can set a brew temperature you want, you can set a steam temperature you want, you can set that steam temperature all the way up to 284, but again, and you're gonna see the temperature as it goes up on the machine, but you don't have to be at 284. What did we do?
Yeah, so we actually started the steam at about 250 or so. And I will just add into, this is one of my favorite single boiler machines.
And why is that?
I love that you're able to get those accurate readings on the PID, especially when you're moving, say, from brew to steaming, and you can just kind of gauge where the machine is when it's ready to start steaming, and takes a lot of the guesswork out of it.
I mean, that's the thing, and even after you're done steaming and you've cooled it back down, you're going to see where the brew temperature is once you turn the steam mode off. It's going to tell you right where it is, so you're going to know for sure that you're back to a good brew temperature, right?
Definitely.
Okay, so what's the verdict? Are you going to brew or steam first? I think I know the answer.
Yeah, I would still say brew first on this one. Again, mostly for the latte art, but I found it's really not that long in terms of getting up to temperature and also cooling it back down. So maybe if you're doing those traditional cappuccinos, you can definitely steam first and wouldn't be too long for it to cool back down too.
Yeah, I mean, it was about 50 seconds for us to get up to, when you turned on the steam, to get up into the low 250s there, where we figure, you got plenty of steam power going there. And again, it's going to keep it heating, there. So that's nice. So it's right in line really with, the Silvia as far as where you can go with that. Now, the GO, it does not have a dedicated pump switch.
That is correct.
So cooling down, how do we cool down the GO?
Yeah, so what I personally like to do is just, of course, hit off the steam switch first, and then I'll just run water through the group head until I start seeing a clear stream, but also, of course, watching the PID, monitoring the temperature, and kind of going from there too.
And again, you had a Pyrex there, so you're not making a mess, so you could just do that. Definitely. Now there's another little trick I want to mention. If you've got a spare portafilter and a blind filter basket, and this is really helpful if you're like doing an Americano or something, you need to get some hot water out of the machine.
For sure.
Is to put in that blind basket in the portafilter, lock it into the group, just turn on the brew switch, open the steam valve, and you can cool it down that way, or that's also how you can get some hot water for the Americano.
Of course.
All right, so last up, Lily, the ECM Classika PID. This is a prosumer level machine with the PID, of course, like in the name, and it's got the E61 group. But as we alluded to a little bit maybe earlier, the process is a little bit different to prepare to steam on this. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so for this one, what you're going to want to do is flip that steam switch first, and then we do 3 intervals at 20 seconds of about a 5-second kind of flush of the steam wand, just to make room in the boiler and give you more space to build up that steam.
So turn the steam switch on immediately. You can purge, because the boiler's already above boiling in there, so you can purge out some water. In fact, that's probably really the way you gotta do it to get some extra water out of there. So purge 5 seconds, wait 20, purge 5, wait 20, purge 5, for a total of 55 seconds of hands-on kind of time. So like in our steaming first times, we did include that process because you have to be involved. On the other machines, you just kind of hit the steam switch, walk away, go prep your espresso.
Exactly.
You're going to need to spend some time, unless you got like 3 hands and you can grind, tamp, and all that, and take care of all of that. And then when we brewed first, it's much faster, right? Because we still have to do that prep. But in our brewing time, which turned out at 140 seconds, which is very comparable to all the other machines, really, if we're going to brew first. We did include that purging setup to get ready for steam. We didn't include cooling down the boiler after steaming, because you could be enjoying your drink and cooling down the boiler. So we're going from when you can start doing a drink. So now what else should we know? So let's get right to it. Are you going to brew or steam first? I got a feeling, again, I know the answer here.
Yeah, it's going to be brew again. Part of it is, for one, the time, but again, just for the latte art, that's my best technique. I could see you steaming first, again, for your traditional cappuccinos, or maybe if you just want, I don't know.
Well, here's one thing, and I don't think we've mentioned it yet. One tactic is, you can, if you're going to do like a couple of drinks, you could brew first for one, then steam some milk. Pour that one and then steam again, so you don't have to cool down. So you can take, if you're doing multiple drinks, you can take out that cool down time and just steam again. for your second drink, then cool it down, then brew your second shot, right? So that's a little bit of a time saver. Now, I do want to mention, right, that this is a prosumer level machine. It's got the biggest boiler of any of the machines in here. Yeah. And again, you don't have to wait. You can set this one to 284 as well, but you can still start your steaming when it's well below that and be just fine. Now this machine, you know, in my mind, is probably aimed more at somebody who's more about the espresso, right?
Yeah, definitely. Just with that E61, you can add on flow control or some of those different tools just to be super precise with dialing in. I still think you get really nice steam power there, but maybe a little bit more geared towards the espresso drinkers.
Or for me, I love Americanos, and I love making Americanos on this one because it's got that big boiler. So if I'm going to make multiple Americanos, I can make one, get some hot water out of there, and it recovers really, really quick. So, but I don't want to throw it on a bus. It can definitely make milk drinks, and it's a really nice steamer. I mean, you had a wonderful pour, right?
I did, yes.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, Lily, listen, I want to thank you for helping us out with all the testing. Yeah. Again, if you guys have any questions about workflow or have suggestions, because again, we don't work with these machines every single day, multiple times a day like you do. I mean, we've worked with them all, but we're not doing it daily, maybe for years. So if you've got thoughts on how to use them, we want to hear them. If you got questions, you want to hear them. Yeah. All right, Lily, thanks again for helping me out. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So, do you brew first or steam first, and why do you do it the way you do? If you've got some tips, you've been working with one of these guys every day for a long time, why don't you throw those down in the comments? Or you can ask questions or tell me about any other experiments you'd like to see. Thanks for watching. I'm Mark, and if you love coffee and espresso as much as I do, be sure to subscribe to the channel and enable those notifications so you don't miss out on more of the best stuff on Everything Coffee, brought to you by Whole Latte Love.